All right, you guys, today we are going to be still talking about histograms, but specifically talk about how to make a prediction based off of the graph or the histogram. So it's going to be really similar to what we did with the probability predictions. Every time we saw that word expect or predict, we knew we had to set up a proportion. So the exact same thing is going to happen here. We're going to predict, you know that we're setting up a proportion. All right, so below is a histogram that displays the number of push-ups 16 students in a PE class performed. The first thing we want to look at is what the X and Y axis are. So my interval, which is going 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, is about how many push-ups people performed. And the height of each interval bar is just saying how many people performed that many push-ups. So let's go ahead and label our histogram with the number of numbers for each. So like the 6 people performed 20 to 29 push-ups, 4 people performed 30 to 39, and 2 people performed 40 to 49. And then we want to go ahead and total that out. So we have 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 6 is 10, 14, 16. So we have 16 total people just in this graph. Now, number 1 asks us to predict the number of students who would perform 20 to 29 push-ups for all 40 students in the class. So this is just part of the class. We want to know, right, there's not 16 kids in a class, there's 40 kids in the class. We want to know how many of the 40 actually did 20 to 29, but we're predicting. So we're going to use that proportional reasoning again. The first ratio I want to use is going to talk about my histogram, my data from my histogram. So I'm going to write H here for histogram. So the data for the histogram from this subgroup, 20 to 29. So there are 6 people in the 20 to 29 category out of a total of 16. Remember, we always do part to whole. Then it asks us to predict from, so this is our prediction. I'll just write P for prediction. We don't know how many people did 20 to 29 push-ups, but we know that there are 40 kids total in the class. Okay, so go ahead and cross multiply with that, and then you can write your answer on the side. I'll be around to check those in a minute. Number 2 says predict how many students would complete 40 to 49 push-ups if there were 560 students in the 7th grade. So same idea here, but this time we're talking about the entire 7th grade class. So we're still going to do a proportion. We want to know how many students got 40 to 49 push-ups if there was 560 students total. So first let's look at the histogram. How many students got 40 to 49 push-ups just in the histogram? That's going to be my first ratio. Well, 2 students out of how many in the histogram? 2 is not relative to 560. That's not the total. 16 is the total for the histogram. Okay, then we're going to think whole picture. If we have 560 students in the 7th grade, how many of those students did 40 to 49 push-ups? So that's my X. All right. We're going to keep on going. Both of these I want you to solve, and I will check those. I don't want to just give you the answer. The last few questions, some you'll be able to do on your own, but we have geometry test results, and then the test results here. 40 to 49, 1 person scored a 40 to 49. I've already written the numbers in for you. Getting a 50 to 59%, 13 people. A 60 to 69%, 5 people. A 70 to 79%, 21 people. So remember, this side really pretty much always is talking, if it says frequency, it's talking about like the number of people that were surveyed or the number of people that the test scores included. And then the bottom is talking about the actual score. So number 3 says how many student scores were recorded in the table. So we're just going to add up the heights. So we've got 1 plus 13 is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, plus 21, plus 3, plus 1. You want to add those up and see what you get. So you should get 44. That's my total I'm working with. All of these heights of the bars added up. Oops, I wrote it in the wrong spot. 44 for number 3. Number 4, predict how many of the 484 8th graders would score a 60 to 69%. Okay, so you're looking at this column right here, 60 to 69. Well, we'll look at the histogram first. 5 students scored a 60 to 69% out of the total 44 students. That's just the total for the histogram. We don't look at the number that they include in the question until we get to the second ratio. Now it says, out of 484 eighth graders, how many of those eighth graders scored a 60 to 69%? You can go ahead and cross multiply, and I'll check that one as well when I come to check around the rest. So you might want to pause the video because I'm going to go on to the next one. Number 5, predict how many of the 484 eighth graders would score less than a 60%. So if we're talking about would score less than a 60%, it's anything smaller than this column. So it's both 50 to 59 and 40 to 49. If you think about it, both of those are less than 60%. So we have 13 plus 1, so 14 students out of the 44, right? That's my ratio for how many students scored less than a 60% from the histogram. Then we're going to do the total. So we have 484 eighth graders, and we want to know how many of the 484 are scoring less than 60%. Again, you could use an X. I just am using an N, but go ahead and cross multiply for that one as well. All right, moving right along. Number 6, did most students score 70 to 79%? Remember, in order to be able to say, yes, most scored more than 50%, or most scored 70 to 79%, when you turn it into a fraction and a decimal, it has to be greater than 0.5 or greater than 50%. So 21 students scored a 70 to 79% out of the 44. When you convert that to a decimal, is it greater than 0.5 or greater than 50%? If it is, you would say yes. If it isn't, you would say no. So see what that is as a decimal, and then you're going to write yes or no. If it's greater than 50%, yeah, we can say most students scored a 70 to 79%. But if it's less, we cannot say that. Okay. Then number 7, what is the probability that a student did not score 50 to 59%? So we're looking at every single category except 50 to 59%. So this category, this category, this category, this category, this category. An easy way to do that would just be to take 44 and take away the one category we're not looking at, the one interval, so 50 to 59. So how many students are left if we do 44 minus 13? Well, we've got 31 students left in all the other intervals out of our 44. And it doesn't ask for percent, it just says probability, so we're going to assume we would leave it in a fraction. 31 is a prime number, it cannot be reduced. Okay. Number 8, find the median interval. So I think I'm going to have you guys try 8 on your own and see how you do. Remember, that is when we get the tallies. So I would recommend giving tallies maybe underneath, and you can even draw like these long lines to separate your intervals. It might be helpful. Okay, so you're going to give tallies to every single bar that represent, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that represent the height, okay? And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, okay, and so forth. I'm not going to do the 21 on here because it will take me forever. But then you'll cross out the first one with the last one and the second one with the second to last one until you get to something in the middle, and then I'm going to have you write the median interval here. What to what? Like 40 to 49 or 50 to 59. What's your median interval? And then number 9, what is the probability that a student will score at least 50% but less than 90%? So remember, if you're going at least 50, that means it has to be 50 and more. And then less than would be just less than, so less than 90. So you'd be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals there as a clue, okay? So there's quite a few things that I need you to get checked by me before moving on to the back. This was just a little guided practice, but the predictions were new. So if you flip it over, or once you finish and you have all of those correct on your page, you're going to flip it over to the back. And there's an independent practice, okay? So just make sure you read what it's about, a random sample of teenagers, how many text messages do they send per day, and when you fill out the line plot, you fill it out with X's. So there's 1, 0, so 0 gets 1 X, because one person sent no text. And then there's 4 10s, so you do 4 X's at 10, because 4 people sent 10 text messages, okay? And then you actually get to create your own histogram and answer some questions off of it. All right, awesome job, you guys. Thank you.